So what are some of the principles then of project management? We have to make sure that the project team is communicating effectively with the stakeholders, that the business knows whether or not their promised delivery is realistic. Are they going to get this system they've asked for at the dates that they were promised? There has to be effective communication. What is project status? Are there any problems? So there's, in many cases, also through managing change, managing resources, identifying any problems, hopefully those areas can be addressed quickly. We should always keep the stakeholders, either clients, management, users, and so on, up to date with project status. We should mention what the project is going to deliver, so people see then and can realize the benefits of the program. We need careful control over project scope. This is often done through breaking the project down into clearly defined deliverables. Maybe we use different types of work breakdown structures, for example, and statements of work that clearly specify what deliverables will be done by which group, so we can manage all the various initiatives towards that common goal. And part of this, of course, as we'll look at the next slide, is going to be understanding the sequencing, the dependencies between these areas as well. And of course, the whole objective is that we're going to have effective use of those resources we have. Effective use of our budget, effective use of our personnel, and of course, in the end, delivery of the project is based on good project management principles. So how do we estimate the amount of work involved in this project? Well, we've often called it LSOC, lines of source code, where we take a look at actually how many lines of source code would be necessary. We say how many lines of code can a developer deliver every day. We may decide that a developer can deliver 40 lines of error-free code per day. In other words, they may code more than 40 lines, but they'll have 40 lines of tested code by the end of the day, on average. That's one way. Another way, of course, is to look at what will the project do. For every function, we have a certain amount of work. The more functions, the more work. And this is then called function point analysis. CPM is a very important approach. This takes a look at the critical path. In order to deliver this project, we have a number of different tasks that need to be done. Some of those tasks will have to be done sequentially. We can only do testing once that unit has been developed. We can only do a system test when all of the units have been developed. But we know that some units will be developed faster than others. So the critical path is the shortest time from then the beginning until the end of the project. The shortest time is made up of the longest time that each individual piece will take. If we know that a certain task is going to take 3 weeks, then any interruption to that task is going to delay the project. We can say that using the critical path methodology gives us now what is our best case scenario for delivery if everything ran efficiently. And if we have 3 parallel tasks, one that's going to take 3 weeks and the other 2 are going to take 2 weeks, the critical path is the 3-week one. The other 2 that are only going to take 2 weeks that are being done in parallel, they have some slack time. They have some spare resources that, if necessary, might be diverted to that critical path task. Henry Gantt put together what are known as Gantt charts, and these were developed specifically for actually the building of naval ships back in the First World War. He received a presidential citation for this, actually. And the idea of a Gantt chart, which is often based on a lot like a critical path methodology, is the idea of breaking down each of the tasks that needs to be done, what is the length of time for each task, And when can task number 4 start? Does it have to wait for the completion of task 3? Or can it start partway into task 3? The idea being that now we can look at the resources required, we can look at then the sequencing required, and the dependencies. And the idea of the Gantt chart, used a lot in various project management tools, is a great way then to actually track the progress of a project. One of the things we need to do then is check, are we on track? Are the various elements being started at the right time? So we know that in the end, hopefully, we will deliver and all of the different interlocking pieces will be brought together at the right time as well. If you're going to do something very complex and you're relying on one piece of code, for example, then obviously you want that to be delivered at the right time so we can move ahead with the next phase of the project. The idea of the PERT charts are also very similar. Program evaluation and review technique. The idea of a PERT chart is that we look at all of the tasks. We look then, of course, are we delivering on schedule all of the interrelated activities? This is especially important, and this was developed actually for large military purchases. When you have a number of different contractors working towards a common deliverable. Let's say you're working on a new naval ship. For that naval ship, you have many parts. You have engines, and you, of course, have armament, weapons. You have then the steering and all of the other parts. And many of those are being delivered by different contractors. So the idea is to make sure you're coordinating everything so that the right parts come together at the right time. Obviously, we have to install the engines early on in the project before we've put on the deck. If we've not done that, we're not going to be able to put the engine in. So the deliverable of that component needs to be at the right time. And this is, of course, what the PERT charts try to do as well. Now, the point is with all of these, that none of them work. No, they all work. The whole point is they only work if I follow them carefully. If I make sure that what I've put in place is realistic. Project management is, in many organizations today, one of their greatest weaknesses. Project management is a lot more than just shuffling paper and having more meetings to discuss why we're late. Project management, in many cases, is based on this ability to ensure all of the resources are being used effectively.